Hello, welcome to the Thursday, October 20th edition of the OSU Sports Extra podcast. I'm Patrick Prince, joined as always by OSU beat writer Kelly Hines. Kelly, OSU's coming off their first loss of the season. They're hosting Texas this week. Let's start with Spencer Sanders. Do we know anything more about his shoulder? How's he doing? What do we know?
Don't know anything because Mike Gundy doesn't want to talk about injuries, but I definitely feel like the more time removed from whatever caused the initial issue, that's probably a good thing. Because obviously Spencer played Saturday and I think for the most part looked like his normal self. So assuming he continues with his recovery, I think that he's expected to play this week. And, I think just this style of the way that he plays, that just, he's going to be banged up a lot. And obviously that's not ideal, but you see that across the country with quarterbacks, especially ones who are mobile. They're going to deal with stuff as the season goes on. And now being at the midpoint, to me, it's not a surprise to see Spencer banged up because he doesn't shy away from contact and he's going to do whatever it takes to make a play. So he'd like for, those situations to not be there, but with him, I think that there's always going to be the chance for that. So, but as he says, he's tough and he's going to probably do whatever it takes to play through it. So unless he's got like a broken leg or, something really severe, he's going to want to be out there trying to make plays. So didn't surprise me to see him play last week and I saw him walk out of practice Tuesday like normal, but we don't have a whole lot to go on otherwise.
Sure. Did it affect his play much Saturday, you feel?
I don't know that it really did. It's just, there were some throws in the fourth quarter that were off and it's hard to say if that was just because he was playing through pain or the defense was doing different things and he was pressured and just different things can play into that. So it wasn't like, oh yeah, no, he was off on that throw because you could tell his shoulders bothering, it wasn't anything like that. So
Yeah.
I think that especially early in the game, you're playing on momentum so much and maybe as the game wears on, that's when the pain starts to get to you, probably a lot after the game. But there wasn't any moment in the game when I thought that it was bothering him to an extent that his performance was affected.
So let's look back at that game for just a second. OSU was in control. They were up 14, whatever it was, and then it just seemed like TCU scored. Kind of got back into it, and you're like, oh my gosh, they're going to overtime. How did this happen? It seemed like OSU was in control until they weren't. Like, what happened?
I think with college football now, like, leads are just not going to be like insurmountable. I think the momentum just like flipped so quickly. And, even looking at the Baylor and Texas Tech wins, like that was really the difference of only like a few plays. And those, were really good wins. But I think it's difficult to control a game start to finish when you're playing on the road and you're playing a really good team. And I think TCU just figured some things out as the game went on, and OSU, there were things that just stopped working as the game went on. So I don't pin it as much on OSU as I think it's a very 50-50. Like TCU figured things out and OSU kind of let that one slip away. So, but that happens. I mean, we've seen OSU win games that way. I mean, it goes both ways. So definitely not ideal, but there were, I just remember it was actually I think it was when it was a 1 touchdown game and TCU was pinned deep because Tom Hutton is unbelievable. And I'm sure it was just like normal for like that point of the game for the stadium to play Don't Stop Believing. It just like, that was like, even though TCU didn't score on that drive, it just suddenly like, all of the fans are into it, and like, the stadium gets really loud, and it really hadn't been like that at all. I mean, in the early going, like you're hearing a lot more OSU fans and TCU fans, and it just changed kind of the vibe of the game. And then, especially in the last few minutes and in the overtimes, the crowd was really into it. And it just, I think momentum is such a big thing. And once you lose that in a game on the road, I think it's so difficult to get it back. And I'm not saying that's why they lost, because it was on the road, but I just feel like a lot of things played into that. And when you have a team that has younger players in key roles, I think that starts to get into their heads a little bit. And it's just not as much of a veteran team as what we saw, especially on defense last year. And you need some of that experience to get you through those moments, because that's not easy when it's slipping away, to be like, okay, we gotta just really clamp down and get this back under control, because the other team is riding on their momentum and their confidence, and they're seeing what's working for them, and they're going to keep doing that. So I just feel like it was a matter of all of those things kind of working against OSU. And it was kind of crazy at the time, but like once the momentum had shifted, like anything was possible at that point.
Sure. So let's talk about the OSU running game for a second. Mike Gundy said earlier this week during his presser that, he was concerned that Dominic Richardson is getting too many carries. And Mike Gundy has always talked about the need for multiple running backs. He likes to divide up the carries. How do you see the running game breaking down the rest of the year? I guess a two-part question, Kelly. Like, why other people haven't got more carries now? And do you see that changing going forward?
I feel like it's going to have to change.
Yeah.
I think when you become that one-dimensional in a game, like Mike Gundy said, like we're not going to throw out everything and start over. We're not going to change our schemes, but it definitely was an area, I don't want to say of weakness, but like they were definitely vulnerable with the run game because of the way that it has been, because Dominic is a very physical runner, but that's not really what you're wanting from your like every down running back. Like you want someone who's going to be shifty and elusive, and not just because of the production, but like, I mean, you don't want your top running back to be, sustaining those hits and seeking out contact and try to plow guys over. Like that's not going to make him very durable for the season. And so, I think Dominic brings so many things to the team. I mean, he's so good catching screen passes and doing different things. Now they're getting him involved, catching passes. And I think that's great because he's good at that. It just, behind him, there's not the sort of experience that I think that the coaches feel super comfortable having those guys get more carries, but I think they're going to be forced into that now because your primary running back is not the type of back you're wanting in a lot of those situations. So he's going to grind out yards. He's going to do some really good things, but the other guys are they're different, totally different styles. So, and you just haven't maybe seen enough from them to feel really comfortable when the game is on the line. And I think that's kind of the problem with how the season has gone is, you didn't get a lot, like enough to really evaluate those guys in the non-conference to feel like, okay, this is a very important drive in a Big 12 game. Let's trot them out there. So, but Jaden Nixon, I think he brings a lot of the things that they're wanting in a running back. They just haven't seen him enough in games to be like, okay, well, we really need something good on this drive. Let's give the ball to him. So I'm not going to say it's like their fault. It's just like things kind of just wound up that way. And now you have to figure out how to deal with Layla. When you're kind of your weakness to some extent has been exposed and now everyone knows that, and now you're trying to fix it. It's just, that's not really ideal. But and Ollie Gordon, I think he has so much potential, but Mike Gundy really he just doesn't like to lean heavily on freshmen because you don't know how it's going to go. And they're just, more prone to fumbles and just different things that can happen in games that you can't really afford to take risks in those moments. But if you don't take those risks, how are they going to develop? And if you don't take risks, then what happened Saturday, that can happen. So definitely not ideal, but I feel like they have some really good pieces. They just haven't quite figured out how to balance, the experience that Dominic has with the inexperience that those other guys have.
Yeah. So Texas comes to town Saturday, 2:30 p.m. kickoff. They got the quarterback back. They got a great running back. How do you see this one shaking out?
I think that this is like another just really difficult opponent. I know we can make jokes all day about, Texas is back, Texas isn't back, all of those things, but like the reality is, they will always have talent. This will always be like, a team with 5-star guys. And when you have that amount of talent, and I think a really good head coach, I think that there are going to be games that they win. I mean, obviously what happened in the OU Texas game, you can say, well, that was OU dealing with their stuff, but Texas still put 49 points on the board. Like this is a team that has a ton of capability. It's just, you don't always know what you're going to get with them. They're going to be a little streaky, and they're some of their, I think a lot of that is I really feel like when Texas was declared back, it just honestly like created more problems than anything else. Like, because it just, then the players are like, okay, we're back. We gotta perform. And it's just created a lot of pressure that has been difficult to live up to when you have coaching changes and, just, the normal stuff with college football. I think the consistency is not something that's easy to achieve. And, I think that this game is a huge opportunity for OSU to get back on track, but this is not going to be an easy one. When you look at the matchups, I feel like it could literally go either way. But this game being back in Stillwater, it's homecoming, everyone loves that. It's just a really good chance to bounce back from what happened at TCU.
Yeah, and it will be interesting too to see how, you and I have talked about how, we like this OSU team. They got, obviously they're ranked high, they're looking good, but it'll be interesting to see how they respond from their first loss.
Yeah, and I think that I know that like the last couple of years, like OSU hasn't lost 2 games in a row. They tend to respond really well after losses. You look at what happened last year when OSU lost it at Iowa State in October, and was able to obviously rebound really well from that and go on and have a really successful season. I feel like there's the potential for that, but that doesn't mean that's going to be easy. Like, I mean, the schedule doesn't really allow for you to like feel really good about anything. I just feel like with the Big 12 being what it is this season, you're not like thinking, okay, well, if they can get past Texas, then all they have to do is win at Kansas State and at Kansas, and it'll be so much easier after this. It's not going to be that way. Like these next few weeks are going to be so difficult. And I think that's great for the Big 12, and it really would strengthen the case of any team that could make it to December with only 1 loss or even only 2 losses. That would be a pretty good feat. So that's the thing that kind of concerns me. I do think this team will respond well and do the right things, because there are some really good leaders on this team, on both sides of the ball, and there's a lot of potential with this team. But the schedule being what it is, I just feel like it's going to be a huge challenge to get through these next 3 weeks without a loss. And if they can do that, like, that's going to be super impressive, and they should have everything lined up for them that should be possible for the rest of the season if they can get through these next 3 weeks. It starts Saturday. That's not going to be an easy one, but I think it's just a matter of continuing to learn kind of what this team what its identity is, because I don't know that that's been like super clear like in the first half of the season, and I think they're still trying to figure things out. I'm sure a lot of teams are trying to figure things out, but when you lose a game like you did Saturday, it kind of makes you like reevaluate things to some extent, but I think that could be a good thing. I don't think that has to be a bad thing.
Sure. All right, Kelly, appreciate the knowledge as always. We'll catch up next week.
Sounds good.